Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Professional Writing. I'm Professor Mike. Today, I want to talk to you about, how to create a proposal, a proper application for funding, for research funding. You're ready to go out into the field. You want to collect the data, you have hypotheses, you have experiments, that you need to, to implement, to realize, you want to, you have ideas of how your results are going to look, and, therefore you've got to carry them out somehow. But of course, there is a business side to science, okay? None of this stuff pays for itself, that. And very often, your department is just not going to have a budget, to send you off to Albania or to a different country, or even here in Slovakia, whether you have to, stay overnight for a week somewhere, pay for hotels and meals, gasoline, petrol for your car, airplane tickets, all this stuff adds up, okay? And so you have to actually, do a little bit of research, find out exactly what your needs are, write it down in an outline. Remember the osnova, the outline, okay, which is just a draft, and that's what a proposal is, okay? Well, in our case, though, the proposal is a request, okay? It's a žiadost, a request for money, okay? And, just like writing the letter for publication that we talked about last week, you have to include everything, okay? So if you, omit, if you vinechat something, okay, or several things, then the people who are giving the money, remember, a grant is money that you don't have to pay back, okay? So if they're giving you this money, they want to be 100% certain that the candidate, the uchadzach, is appropriate. The person that they're giving the money to, they're fully confident that they're going to take this money and use every cent of every euro, and put it to good use and deliver on their results. Okay, having said that, I want to go right into our lecture here. Okay, so the first thing that you really have to do is you have to do your homework, okay? You have to do background work. Basically is that you have to kind of research the people who are giving you the money, okay? So these are, we also call them funding bodies, okay? Also your eligibility, okay? If you're opravnenie, and also the guidelines, okay? Their rules, their pravila, pokyny, and so forth, okay? So prior to starting a grant proposal, you have to study the source. So you also have to ask yourself, well, is this the right funding body to apply to, okay? So, there are several, grant agencies, or these funding bodies, that give money, but you have to ask them if they're actually the right fit for you, okay? So think about also what details are included in the funding opportunity announcement, okay? So, you get all these emails, at least on the Prefug email, FNS Uniba, that there's, opportunities to, get a Vega grant, for example. Other grants, I can't think of the names right now, okay? But have a look at it, okay? Look at the announcement when they have this, it's a call, a výzva, okay? And try to think, like, maybe these guys, would be good because, my research is exactly what they're looking for. Think also about what recent grants they have approved, okay, to schválit in a similar, specialism to yours, okay? So maybe they've given, grants in the past, or even, the past month or the past week or something. They've given a grant to somebody who's doing not the same research, but, research in your field or similar research. So if you're, looking for funding for coronavirus or something. Of course, there's laboratories, institutions all over the world who are researching and trying to find, cures and vaccines and so forth. Generally they're going to be looking for, very similar, these funding bodies that give out, grants, that are specific, okay, or special to your field. And also think about their other calls to funding, okay? So, you might have like the Vega grant, which is very broad, very general, okay, which is good, okay? And think, does your research match their priorities, okay? So just kind of included, or very similar with the details that in the email when they send out that VISVA, okay? So does your research match what they're calling for? Okay, so you can't really do this overnight, like the night before or something. You need plenty of time. Okay, spousta, I like that word. Okay, which actually is a Czech word, which I found out. Spousta, but plenty of time. Okay, velké množstvo času. Okay, vopred. Okay, or pred terminom. Okay, ahead of the deadline, in order to prepare your grant application. Now, the grant application is usually quite long. It's not like just one page or half a page. It's actually several pages. It can be 4 or 5 or 6 pages, okay? Each section requires due care and attention. So you have to, put your pozornost, okay? So with time set aside for you to review and get feedbacks from your colleagues before you submit it, okay? So you're going to have other reviewers, you're going to include people who are supporting you, okay? As well as people who have also just read your proposal and agree that it's okay. Now, be careful, because reviewers, okay, they complain that sometimes clear that the researchers have spent the majority of their time on the case for support, okay? Rushing critical areas like budgets and an impact plan. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful, okay? Like researchers, they just went, looking for support, but they didn't even, consider their budget or the impact plan, okay? We'll get to this in a little bit later, okay? So you have to divide your time equally. All right. The feedback, get that in advance, okay? So outstanding, okay, like úžasný, or I don't know if it's úžasný, ohromný research, prieskum, that receives good peer reviews from the experts reviews from the experts in the field. Well, it's essential, whether you get approved or not, okay? So bear in mind, okay, na pamäti, there's going to be a komisia, we call it a review panel, and that some members, niektorí členovia, zastupcovia, well, they may not be specialists in your particular field, okay? So you're going to have to also keep, think of the way, the language that you use. So you don't really want too much jargon or too much technicus terminus, okay? There might be one person in the committee, or the review panel in the comisia, okay, who knows what you're talking about. But maybe the other 4 are from different fields, and it doesn't make any sense to them, okay? So you need to articulate, okay? This is a great word, articulate, okay? Describe how your work is going to change things, okay? Transform thinking in the field, okay, or advance research, okay? So it's an area that has to be perceived as important, okay? Vnímání, as important within your specific discipline and beyond, okay? So this is where you're going to sell your idea, your proposal, okay, to people who are also, I mean, they're scientists as well, but they're not specialists in your field. All right, so the impact plan, okay, so you have to also describe that, okay? This is where you're going to talk about what kind of, impact it's going to have. If there's clear academic impact, okay, well, the panel will want to know how you will deliver this to relevant peers. And we're going to look at this in some supplementary material that I'm also going to send to you, okay? So how are you going to, deliver this to your peers? Okay, these are your colleagues, and get the message out, beyond relying on others to read a publication. Okay, so for example, you could also mention that you're going to go to conferences. So you're going to, you're going to present your work at conferences. Okay. Or even collaboration, okay? You're going to spolupracować, with other, institutions, other researchers, and so on, okay? Now, also your team is extremely important, okay? So you need to include all the details of each member of your team and exactly who is going to, what their roles are, what their tasks are, okay? So for example, if a junior researcher, okay, so if somebody even a master's student who is, not your senior, but your junior, okay, so like 1 or 2 years, below you, I guess, or before you, I don't even know how to say it. But if they're going to be doing the majority of the work, okay, you should be clear about that, okay? So if you're going to send somebody out from the master's program to collect data and things like that, okay, well, this needs to be, said, okay? And also your role in the project should be clear, okay? Because you're sending out this proposal, so they want to know, well, what exactly are you going to be doing it? Are you going to be managing it? Are you going to be driving, driving the van or something like that? All that kind of stuff needs to be said. Your application may require you to attach a short form CV, okay? Or even a resume, which is the same, but for all those individuals involved in the project, okay? So a CV, short form CV, basically stating, why that person is appropriate for that job, or a full resume of, of their work experience, of their educational experience, and so on. I just want to be clear on that point. All right, then, clear methodology. Okay, so the reviewers basically focus on, or mostly focus on, the quality of the core research in your application. Okay, so it's important to explain and also reference detail of the methodology and the experiments. All right, so make sure you include data analysis, okay? Sometimes it's requested in the form of like a data management plan, okay? This way it avoids being vague, okay? Like nejasný, okay? Vague is a word that means unclear, okay? All right, so pitfalls, okay? This is like a yama, okay? So this is a trap or nedostatok, chyba, writing only for specialists in your field. Okay, so be careful about that. Okay, just as I said, there are other people on the committee, on the comisia, okay, on the panel who may not be in your field of research. Again, if you're going to write somebody, you have to make sure that it meets the funding call, okay, that výzva. Also, you need enough time, okay? So you can't do it all in one day, okay? Do it over a few weeks, okay? Really think about your budget, okay? Because you don't want to give them a big number and you don't want to give them a small number, okay? Also think of that impact plan, okay? You can't neglect zanedbat, okay? Vynechat, it must be included. as well your role, okay, or contribution in the project, okay? So don't forget that, okay? Even the methodology, it has to be clear, okay? You remember this word here, vague, unclear, okay? Your methodology, okay, needs to be clear, and also avoid repetition. Repeating things, people don't like that, okay? I mean, it's okay to repeat, once, okay, to emphasize a point in a grant proposal, I'm saying, but you don't want to repeat over and over and over again, basically the review panel they're going to understand, generally right from the beginning why you want their, money from them. Okay, so I've got some resources here. Let's go and have a look at them. Okay, so I'm sending this in the attachment as well. This is a great guide. It's a little bit long. It's about 31 pages, but don't panic. I'm just going to go through like 2 or 3 pages of some of this stuff. And that's the stuff that you kind of need to focus on, those 2 or 3 pages. And later, when you have time, go read some more of it, look at all the details. So this is from 2018 or 2018, 2 years ago. A guide to grant writing. Okay, this is for the faculty of the Fox School of Business. Okay, which is part of Temple University, which is a big university in Philadelphia, okay, Pennsylvania, in the United States. Okay, so let me scroll down a little bit. It's all written, I mean, really everything is separated wonderfully here. There's a bit of an introduction. It kind of goes through some of the stuff that I've already talked about, find the program, the fit, whether your research is appropriate for, this grant. Then there's some general tips, okay? Even how to write a title, okay? Because a title is extremely important. And I'm going to send you another example that has a really great title, okay? But today I really want to focus on this stuff over here, okay? So the components of grant proposals, okay? So let's go all the way down here. It's going to quickly go to page 8, which is, hang on a second. There we are, okay. So this is a checklist, okay, for everything for a grant proposal, okay? So you're going to need something called a cover sheet, okay, which is, a cover letter or something, a proposal title, okay? You're also going to need a table of contents as well, okay? And then the proposal contents should include these things here. So you're going to have an abstract, okay? And you're going to have a project description, okay? For example, you're going to have a statement of needs, okay? Your goals and objectives. Okay, again, background, literature review, some methodology, which is extremely important here, okay? Your deliverables, okay? So your results and things like that. Also a time frame as well, okay? The time frame is really important. You need to be very detailed about this, okay? The months, the weeks and days, so you put some dates. They don't have to be exact. You yourself don't, you don't have to follow them exactly, but it gives the idea, the reviewers an idea of, how long things are going to take and, how much time you're going to spend on certain things, okay, or certain parts of your research, all right, as well as an evaluation, okay. And a summary, okay? So in other words, you can have your discussion and a conclusion, okay? You're going to have to also include your references cited and, of course, your budget and something called a justification, okay? Which is, why you need this money or, why you need to use that special equipment, that special van, that, all that kind of stuff, okay? So you have to justify, okay, to justify why that money is necessary. And again, those letters of support, okay. So here we have some curricula vitae. This is plural, okay. Curriculum, okay, is one. Curricula are plural, okay. So resumes, okay. Temple University's information. Okay, so also find out from, if it's a grant from another university, you have to find out their guidelines as well, okay? And agency forms, okay? All right then, so you have to be careful because many funding agencies, they already have, a template, okay? They have specific forms intended to accompany a proposal. Okay, so the agency will state in the proposal application in which order the forms need to be inserted. Okay, so they'll tell you, they'll tell you exactly how you go through it. Okay, so yeah. By the way, this NSF up here is I'm sorry, I should have explained that earlier. Okay, that's the National Science Foundation. Okay, so this is, for example, a grant. One of those bodies, okay, those funding bodies that I talked about. And they use something that's called an online system for preparing, and submitting proposals, okay, which is called Fastlane, okay. I don't know if you use it here in Slovakia or in Europe or anything like that, okay. But Fastlane, it does all this kind of stuff, for you there. Okay, so it's used to change principal investigators, okay, which are PIs. Okay, add sub awards. Okay, so other kinds of grants. Okay, for administration of proposals and awards by the sponsored projects office. Blah 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 blah. But also the panel peer review. Okay, so these are all the other grants and sub awards or minor grants, that are also included. All right, then. So the next thing I want to do is, hang on, I'm just going to pause it. All right, and so I've skipped over to the appendices, but these are really good because Appendix A is getting started worksheets. Included in this pamphlet, okay, in this book or handbook, okay, you can also write down all the activities that you want funded, okay, so you have everything here, okay, so write down everything that needs, you need money for, okay. And also you have to write down, well, why is external funding needed? Well, it's because, it's just not in our budget, or it's just way too expensive, or it's just not possible to buy something in this country, anything like that, okay? All right, so, and then Appendix B, okay, well, then you can go through, prepare actually the concept and actually write the introduction. Okay, so you need to deliver your message, okay, and you can just answer these questions, respond to the following questions, and basically you build up your introduction this way, okay? Remember, who, what, where, why, when, and how. What, why, how, what is the research question, why is it important, and how, of course, would you contribute to the existing knowledge base, okay? So you're going to answer all of these questions here. The broader impact, remember, the shirshi, or I don't know, the vetshi, dopad, how it impacts the world and the world of science and human beings and all the benefits that will come about from your research, okay? Again, you got all this stuff here, why is your research unique, okay? And why should this agency, why should they give you money? Why should they fund, okay? Sponsorovat, okay, your money or your proposal. How does this research fit with mission of the funding institution? So you're describing, well, all the reasons why you think this agency should give you the money, okay? And then, of course, then we got Appendix C here. Look at our goals, our objectives, okay? So you're going to, write down focus on the outcome, not the activity, but this is what you hope to get, okay? And then your objective, measurable and directly related to achieving the goal, okay? So here's your goal, and these are the steps on how you're going to achieve it. You've got 5 of them there, okay? And then we can go here, okay? Milestones, milniki. tasks and deliverables, okay? So this is our timeline and so on. All right, look at this here, Appendix E, sources of funding, okay? Well, these are other places that you can go to, you know, these grants by the government, Kaufman Foundation, and so forth, okay? All right, so our budget, all right. So basically, you know, we're going to have our personnel, okay, the people involved, your team, the list the names of faculty, students, and all of them. Fringe benefits, okay, so for example, you know, these are things like health insurance, social security, okay, workers' compensation, okay. You know, safety is important. You know, if you're doing something dangerous, you know, the people giving you the money, the review panel wants to know that you're covered, you know, like that they themselves won't get in any trouble as well, okay? So they want to know that you have insurance and things like anything to, you know, safety measures in place, okay? Right? You know, the fringe benefit rate may vary, okay? So maybe different than the current rates for Temple University. But anyways, this is only for one university, okay? You have to just, you know, also check, you know, some of their, if they have any benefits or fringe benefits included in their grant, their offering of grants, okay? So travel, equipment, supplies, okay, even contracts, okay, the żywność, you know, the żywnośnicy, okay, or żywnośnik. Well, these are services, okay, these are the consultants, okay, these are people like me, okay, preklady, korektury, and things like that, okay. Anything like that, like data acquisition, publication costs, okay, and so forth, okay. So there's even indirect costs as well. All right. So here's a good template. Okay, this one's a little bit bigger. This one's going to take, you know, go over a few years. Okay, so you're going to list everybody. Those are the investigators, the other faculty. Okay, clerical, like office workers. Okay, you know, people or even things. You know, people that like secretaries and things like that. You know, the PhD students, okay, student works and so on, okay. So you could list all of that there and their salaries, okay, all the fringe benefits, okay. So basically you have everything, you know, kind of listed for you as well, okay. All right, so also there is a sample letter of intent, okay. So you can even read all this sort of stuff. You know, it tells you how to open the paragraph. But to be honest, at this point, I'm just going to move over to, I've got another one, and I want to look at that. So hang on a second. Okay, so in front of you, here is another grant proposal. Okay, here's a cover page. So here's the first page that you're going to have then. That title that I talked about, Read to Succeed, Improving Reading Performance for At-Risk Students. Okay, so if you're in the field of didactics, you know, this is a great template for you guys. Okay, so submitted to, okay, so the name of the grant, you know, the granting agency, the funding body, the date, okay, you know, the person, you know, who's getting it, okay. All right, sample grant proposal. Okay, so read to succeed. So basically, here is, let's have a look. I'm going to make it a little bit larger for you. No, I think this should be enough then. Okay, so you have the abstract here. Okay, so remember, it's going to be a concise, very stručný summary of the project. Okay, so here is written, the Orchard Middle School in Orchard, Vermont is seeking a grant to expand our Read to Succeed program, okay, with the objective of helping all of our at-risk students, okay. At-risk students, okay, are generally, you know, students who have like a learning deficit or disorder, you know, So it makes it harder for them to read or to learn how to read, okay? So you want to increase their reading skills and to read at grade level using the same classroom textbooks and materials as their peers, okay? So they have a program already developed so that those students who are having problems with their reading, okay, they can use the exact same materials that the other students in the classroom are using, but they have a program that's going to help them, get to that level. All right, so you've got a statement of need, remember that, a description of the whole program, okay? Everything up here is listed, okay? The statement of need, okay, should describe the problem that the project will attempt to address and describe the population that will be served. The description, you're going to describe the project, okay, the program, provide information of how it will be implemented. Okay, remember, to realizovat, to realize it. So you're going to put in all that information that, or what will be accomplished and the desired outcome, your result, okay? So here's, we've got things like the Kurzweil 3000 assistive reading technology. So you're going to put that in there, okay? Remember also your methodology. You can also include references down here. Okay, and then we can go on to our goals and objectives, okay? We describe all of that. We can break them down here as well. The main objectives include, providing a measurable increase in reading speed, comprehension, and so on. Enabling poor readers, okay, to access the general curriculum through the use of the assistive reading technology, okay? Well, I'm not going to go back there. That's their methods. And then look at this here. Okay, so here's a short version of our timeline. Okay, well, I wouldn't even say it's a short version. This is just all the months, basically from October to June, the school year. It doesn't include September, okay? But maybe they're preparing it already in September. So they're going to submit their grant proposal in October. Okay, they're hoping to find out in December. They'll get all their hardware and software in January. February, they're going to train the teachers. They're going to introduce it in February. Okay, so probably for the summer semester. Test the initial reading speed. Begin a first 12-week phase, okay, from March to May. And then, of course, testing, okay, and prepare the results report. Remember, that's your evaluation, okay? Look here, here's our budget, okay? So remember, you need to include all the expenses, okay, including even the training costs, okay? Even co-funding, if you're getting other sources, okay, that, if other funding bodies are helping you, you need to include that as well. Who is paying for what? Okay, so remember we had that Kurzweil 3000. Okay, so the budget includes 5 copies of the Kurzweil 3000 along with 5 computers and scanners, and everything is broken down here. Okay, so here are the things that we need to pay, that we need. Okay, all right, and you also need to explain why it's necessary. This stuff is probably state of the art, so up to date. It's the only materials that are appropriate for your research, as well as you provide that evaluation. Okay, again, the information on the metrics that will be used. Okay, staff, all that kind of everybody. Okay, you're going to put your appendix. Remember your letters of support. Okay. Even an annual report, manufacturer's brochure, okay? So even from this stuff here, so that they know this stuff really exists, okay? And let's have a look here. We'll just put everything in it right away, okay? So the letter format has been traditionally used for proposals to seek funds, okay? Remember, have somebody read your letter, okay? Do all the homework. That's basically what it's saying, okay? So that everything is included, okay? All right, so here's the granting agency, ABC Foundation. Okay, here's the school that wants the money. RE, regarding, that's the subject, okay? And then you have everything here. This is a really, really great proposal. Okay, so this is our cover letter. Okay, that will go along with it. Okay. Okay, guys. Hopefully that was helpful to you. I mean, trying to get money for research is never a pleasant thing. Especially if you are denied it. If you're not approved. If your application is rejected. Ooh, okay. But don't give up. I mean, there's plenty. There are several places where you can, or whom you can go to, for money. So don't panic. It just takes a little bit of extra time, and you just have to go through things over and over. But basically, also, talk to your professors. They have years of experience. They know all that kind of stuff. They know specifically which granting agency or funding body is perfect, or is that appropriate fit for your research. So basically talk to your supervisor or any of the other professors for any help. They know all that kind of stuff, what to say, how to, sell yourself, they know everything basically that the comisia, okay, that the panel, that they want to hear, okay? So generally go to that. Basically, I've just given you kind of that, introduction and overview, but hopefully whatever, I said in today's video will be helpful to you. Okay, guys, take care. I'll see you guys next week. Next week is going to be our last lesson. I hope to actually kind of review everything that we've done in this course, go through kind of a checklist, make sure I haven't actually forgotten anything, but I think more or less, I've covered everything I wanted to in this course. So, okay, guys, take care. And even when the course ends, I'm still going to be posting videos time to time on writing tips, on grammar and other stuff. The channel is kind of, open for anybody who's interested in writing and presenting and so on, and basically just bettering their English. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a nice week. Bye-bye.
Just like with any other type of fundraising, preparation really is the key to success. So when you're thinking about writing your grant application, the first thing I'd recommend is that you really know your project. So what is it exactly that you need money for? What are the specifics? What is every part of this project and all of the detail that you know at this stage? Who does your project benefit? Again, looking back at your stakeholder list, who are all of the people who have a potential interest in this project, and how widely is it going to be shared? Also, be really clear about how much money you need. Again, you've worked out your budget. You need to be really clear and really realistic with that so that you really, again, know your project inside out. You know exactly what that money will get spent on and exactly where it will come from. The next thing that you want to spend time doing is researching different funders. So as I mentioned, there's loads out there and they all have different application processes, they all have different aims and objectives, and you need to get to know what those things are. So look around, do your research, work out what organisations are offering funding. Who funds the type of project that you are developing? So look for those logos on different projects that you encounter, things that are in your field of practice, things that are maybe in your local area. Who are the people who are funding those different types of projects? Work out how you make an application. So usually you'll find lots of information online from any of these funding bodies about exactly how to make an application. It'll give you deadlines, it'll give you word limits, it'll tell you if you have to apply online or by post or by email or any of those different kind of ways. And then I want you to most importantly make a list of these potential funders. So working out against these criteria, who are the potential funders that you need to look at and research more carefully. That leads us on to the next part of this process, and that's about knowing your funder. So again, you need to check that you and your project are eligible to apply. This is the very first kind of hurdle, the very first thing. There'll be a set of criteria that the funder has published, usually again online, to tell you who exactly is eligible and what exact type of projects are eligible to apply. So you're looking out for what area they cover, so what geographical place that funder covers, what types of project they fund and do not fund. Again, lots of funders are really specific about this. There might be a particular activity that they will or won't fund, and you need to know that. You also need to know how much money the funder is offering. So what are the minimum and maximum amounts of money that they allow you to apply for? So for example, if you need about £2,000 for your film project, applying to a fund where the minimum of £5,000 is there won't do you any good. It won't help you out. Similarly, if you needed £2,000 and the maximum for the funder is £500, again, you won't be able to apply. You won't be able to realise your project with that budget. Also on this list, you really need to know what the deadline is. So some funding programs are rolling, they go all year, you can apply at any time. Some are at very specific times. Some might only exist for 6 months or a year and then be gone. So you really need to know what the deadline is for each of those funders that you're having a look at. You'll remember as well that you need to really pay attention to the funder's aims. So you really need to know about what it is that they want to do as an organisation. Then you're bringing across your project and your project's aims. And the part here that we're really interested in is the part at the middle of this Venn diagram. So this is the crossover between the aims of the funder and your project's aims. This crossover section, this is your project proposal. So this is the part that you're going to write about. This is the part that you're going to really make sense of in your funding application. Some more research for you is around reading the guidelines. So again, lots of funders will produce guidelines that produce whole documents about how to make an application to their process. Read these really carefully and make sure you follow the advice. You might also want to make contact with that funding body or that organisation just to simply recheck your eligibility. So you've looked online, you've had a good look through the documents, and you want to check any details with them. It also shows that you're really careful about what you're doing and that you're making contact with them personally, and that can be really important to some funders. Once you've got that advice, once you know those guidelines and you know that eligibility, follow it. That's really, really important. Those funders have published those guidelines for a reason, and that's because they keep getting applications that don't follow them. So don't let that happen to yours. Don't let it be disregarded. Make sure you take all of that advice and follow that advice. Give them everything they ask for in that application process. My top tip for you as well is to find somebody who has already done this successfully, so who has already got funding and got money from that particular funder, and ask them about that process. Ask them if they might mentor you or support you during your making of the application, or if they can read over it and be a kind of critical eye or an advisor on the project. They'll feel really flattered about this. They'll see that you recognise their hard work and their skill set, and they might well be able to help you. They might well be able to give you that time and support to make your proposal the best it can be. And alongside all of this, remember to look online for different hints and tips. So there's lots of people out there who are sharing information about the best ways to write up project proposals, about specifics to do with different funding bodies and ways that they like to see their proposals. And I would recommend reading as much of that as you can, really looking out for it, asking for recommendations from other people, and finding out, being as well armed as you can be going into this process. In a similar way, Find out as much as you can about the application form or the process at this stage. So copy all of the headings or the questions from that application form into a separate document. And use your project aims, your stakeholders list, your activity plan, and your budget to answer the questions that they're asking. Remember, you can stick to the word limits, you really have to in a lot of the forms, but first of all, write it all out and edit it back down so that you've got all of that information in there, and then you can edit through to see which is the most important for that application. Then ask somebody else to read it. Please, 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 don't send it off before you've proofread it, before you've had at least 1 or 2 people look at it for you. Because without that kind of external eye, there might be a really obvious problem or a mistake that you've made on the form, and you won't know until it's too late. Because of this all or nothing kind of process that happens with grant funding, you really need to make sure that none of that slips through, that none of that happens. So get somebody else to read your application before you submit it, and double check those supporting documents. Make sure that you've got everything that they've asked for. If you need to attach a CV, make sure you attach a CV. If it needs to be photographs in a specific format, make sure that you do that. So you wouldn't want your application and your hard work to be discarded simply because it didn't have the right supporting documents. Once you've got your application in, then there's this waiting game. So you're going to sit at home and wait until whatever the deadline is that you'll hear back on, whether that's 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 12 weeks, however far down the track. And unfortunately, there's a high likelihood that your project might be unsuccessful. So what do you do in that case? What happens if you are unsuccessful? I'd say the first thing to remember is don't take it personally. I know that it feels like because you've put your heart and soul into this, because you've spent so much time and energy writing this application, it can feel like a really personal rejection, but it isn't. Usually funders have far more applications than they can ever fund, and usually there are specific reasons why you wouldn't have got the money on that occasion. Remember also that practice makes perfect, so the more of these grants and the more of these funding bids that you start to write, the more successful you'll find yourself being. That's because you'll have got used to the language, you'll have got used to the expectations of different funders and what they need to see in that proposal. And you'll get really good at making that clear and making that really approachable so that they can see how your project works and why they should fund it, why they should be the people to take it on. It's also really important to ask for feedback. So some funders will give you initial feedback, some will give you more detailed feedback if you contact them. That's really important so that you can improve, so that you can make resubmissions or that you can submit the next time from scratch and that you won't make the same mistakes again. So asking for feedback, I would say, is a really important part of this learning process. Another thing that you can do is to build your track record as you go. So building up with smaller projects that require less resources will help show your track record and help prove to those funders that they can take a gamble on you. So you're not going to just run away with the money. You know what you're doing, you know how to run a project like this, and now you're scaling up in terms of ambition and in terms of what you want to achieve. So I think that's a really good thing that you can be doing all along in your career. My next piece of advice would be to get a mentor. So somebody who has done this process before, somebody maybe who's like 4, 5, 10 years ahead of you, who can give you advice, who's been through the things that you're doing. And you might want to approach that person, you might not necessarily know them beforehand. They'll appreciate a professional approach. You also need to understand that they might not necessarily have time at this particular moment to help you. They might be able to suggest other people who could help you, or there might be other ways to approach the situation. So again, like if at first you don't succeed, try again. Find that mentor, find somebody who's already done this process, so who can help you through any of the pitfalls and any of the setbacks that you have along the way. And my final rule is try again. So it can feel crushing and really disappointing, but it may have been as simple as when you put the application in, there were just another 5 applications that pipped you to the post, so that were slightly better for one reason or another, or slightly more timely or urgent in some way. That won't always be the case. Sometimes just by resubmitting the application, you can be successful again. So don't give up, don't get disheartened, and do try again. So I hope this series has given you lots of different hints and tips for how to get started on fundraising for your projects. If you haven't looked at the other videos yet, check out the playlist, see all of the different parts of the process all the way through, and I'd love to hear what you think about these. I'd love to hear in the comments what it is that you'd improve, what it is that you'd change, or what it is that you're going to use from these videos. So please let me know, and I look forward to seeing your projects in the real world.